there is lore in South America where they're talking about people from another wherever landed there some 6,000–7,000 years ago, and suddenly tribes who were living without any engineering capabilities, their highest level of engineering was a leather tent, which is called a tepi. From there, suddenly they started building constructions, stone constructions which have even lasted till today, which are masterpieces of engineering. So they say the gods came from elsewhere and taught them this. In the lore, this is how it is. I want you to just imagine, 6,000 years ago, if somebody came floating on an ocean, on whatever they floated upon, and landed in your land. Suppose you were in Indiana and somebody came floating 6,000 years ago, when you had not imagined anything beyond the land on which you exist, they definitely would look like gods who came from elsewhere. And they brought in mathematics, they brought in engineering, geometry, and other dimensions, and suddenly those who were living in tents suddenly started building constructions which do not… you cannot… culture cannot evolve from a rudimentary tent which is just put up with a piece of leather and stick to a sophisticated construction in just a short span of time. It will take a whole lot of time for people to evolve that, unless an input came from elsewhere. The suggestions that the input came from elsewhere, which you can call it gods or you can say they're Saptarishis or wherever they came from, yes, definitely they came from elsewhere. Everything suggests they could have only come from the east and not from anywhere else. So you could assume, if you wish, if it assists your Indian ego, you can say, these people came from India. Not Indiana, I mean India. So if it is… because this would be very presumptuous to say, yes, this is Saptarishis, but a lot of things indicate it could be them. It would be very presumptuous for anybody to say, yes, this is so, because there is no such thing. But in my experience, within myself, I know these seven sages reached out to the whole world, and because that was Adiyogi's intention and that's how they went, and there are more, what to say, believable stories. At the time of Mahabharat, Arjuna decides to… see, we must understand this one thing, that if you go through the Indian lore, if you go as far back as 5,000–6,000 years ago, very clearly they're talking about the planet being round. In fact, even today, in the local languages in India, when we say geography, we say bugol. Bugol means study of a globe. The very word is suggesting that the earth is round. So, this is not like whatever a few hundred years ago Galileo invented that… discovered that earth is round. For thousands of years we've been talking about it. You should see the descriptions in Mahabharat where when Vayu takes Kunti Devi, he takes her across the world and for the first time she sees and realizes that the planet is round, and she talks about it, and she couldn't believe that actually you can go round and come back. So they're talking about Vayu as the god of winds who took her around. She realized that the planet is round. There are any number of things to suggest that people were traveling or people did travel to those parts of the world. And also, if you go back further, 18,000 or 20,000 BC, during the Ice Age, largely these continents were connected, that people could have even walked across. not necessarily gone by… traveled by the sea, but they could have walked across because land masses was connected one way or the other. So it is possible. If you look at the knowledge that suddenly they exhibited, we can say definitely it is so, but we don't have exact proof to say it is so.